Have you ever been scammed? I have, and let me tell you, it's no fun. I'm Helen Cassidy Page, the smart cookie. I'm going to tell you what it's like and what my experience was like, so you don't have to. It started about 2 or 3 weeks ago. I was getting ready to have a friend over for high tea, something we used to do years ago, and I hadn't had her over to my apartment for a while, and I thought, let's do something fancy. So I had a lot of things on my to-do list. I was very busy, and I had my phone in my hand. It rang, and without thinking, I pushed the answer button. Now, I have a couple of hard and fast rules, and one of them is I never answer the phone if I don't recognize the number. I mean, I stick to that rule as though my life depended on it until I don't. And for some reason, I just wasn't paying attention. I had a lot on my mind. No excuse. I just hit answer. I said hello, and I was hooked. I didn't quite understand the woman at the other end of the line. She had a very heavy accent. I asked her to repeat herself, and she said she was from the FCC. She had sent a couple of letters that I didn't answer, and she was calling about child pornography. So I asked her to repeat herself, and I still had a hard time understanding her. So she said, let me put my supervisor on the line. And this other woman came on the line with an accent, but I could understand her. And she said my phone was being used to send pictures of child pornography across the country. So that got my attention. And she explained that I hadn't answered the letters that they had been sending me, and so this was a courtesy call. They were going to shut down my phone in 2 hours. And I said, I haven't been sending child pornography. I hate child pornography. I would never do a thing like that. And she repeated a phone number to me. I said, that's not my phone number. I said, the only phone I have is the one you're calling me on. So she went into great detail in questioning me about had I ever bought a phone in an out-of-state Verizon shop, and I said no, and we spent quite a bit of time answering questions about giving my identity to anybody, and I said no, and she said, well, your name has been used to buy this phone. We're going to shut it down, and you should report your number to the police that has jurisdiction over this Verizon store so that they don't inadvertently get you in trouble. I said, okay, I'll do that. She said, well, I can transfer you. And so the next thing I knew, this man came on the line. He said he was from police department, and I explained why I was calling and went through a rigmarole. We were on the phone for about an hour, and he was scrutinizing me about what I did with my personal identity. He said, there's the reason that your name has been used to buy this phone. We get a lot of calls like this, and he said, I'm not chastising you, but you just have to be very careful about how you handle your identity. And he wanted to know why I hadn't reported. In the last 20, 30 years, I lost my identity a couple of times, and I should have reported it to the police, blah, blah, blah. So he said, I need to record this call on WhatsApp. Is that okay with you? And I said, sure. So he said, hold on. And then there was a video, and he was in a police uniform, what looked like a squad room. I was totally hooked. So to make a long story short, I showed him a picture of my driver's license. He said, I need to put this in a database, and then we're done. So in the background, I heard him talking, and he was explaining that he was just giving my driver's license to a database to clear my name from this child pornography ring. The person at the other end said, wait a minute, this driver's license is implicated in a money laundering scam, and this owner of this license is a suspect in money laundering. And that's when it got serious. So the policeman got back on the phone and explained this to me. He sounded a little rattled. He said, I was not expecting this, but apparently your identity has been used in this money laundering ring. We've arrested somebody, and your name was one of 300 that was found in his house, and he eventually showed me a debit card with my name on it. I said, that's not my debit card. I don't even use that bank. And went back and forth. He said, I'm looking up the files, and here you're a suspect. He connected me to a prosecutor from the Department of Justice. She had a very stern attitude. She said, I should be sending the San Francisco Police Department out to arrest you, but this officer has convinced me that you're very low risk. I'm going to put you on reporting status. And I had to keep this very confidential because they were in the process of rounding up the other 300 suspects. And so the upshot was, I didn't know anything about this. She showed me something that was signed by Todd Blanche of the Department of Justice. I was listed as a suspect. I had to keep all of this confidential. And the reporting meant I had to call this police officer every 2 hours, take pictures if I left my apartment. And the penalty for telling anybody in my family, my friends, would be 3 years imprisonment. And I thought, this is sounding peculiar. So I was on the telephone for several hours. So this officer said, I'm going to help you with this. I'm going to help you clear your name. You've got to be sure you check in with me. So I got off the phone. I thought, this sounds sketchy. So I went on Google and I looked up, the piece of paper she showed me with all the confidentiality language and so forth. And sure enough, it was real. And to make a long story short, this went on for several days. I was so rattled that I was calling him every 2 hours, he said, if you leave the apartment, you have to show pictures. If you don't, we're going to send the police out. You're going to be arrested. I won't be able to help you. And he said, I'm really going to try and, get your name expunged. This went on for almost a week. And I'm thinking, how am I going to clear my name? And he said, it's really a he said, she said, we've arrested this guy. And he said, one of his co-conspirators somehow knows you and is insisting that you sold your identity to this man, had a whole spiel. And then he said one morning there was a call and he said, we've just come back from court and the judges set your bail at $175,000 and we were able to get it reduced to $50,000. And I used to work in a law office and we didn't do criminal law, but I thought that's not the way bail works. I think you have to go to court and plead your case before you can have a bail hearing. And then he showed me a document that was signed by the Supreme Court. Clarence Thomas signed it. And I thought, the Supreme Court doesn't get involved with bail hearings. And I had told him that I had a family member who was a retired lawyer. And I said, can I talk to him about this? This is really upsetting me. No, you really, when it's time to go to court, then you can talk to your family member. But, we don't advise it right now. So I got off the phone and I'm thinking, how can I raise $50,000? And I thought, I just have to call this person who's been a lawyer. Something's not right. And as soon as I called my family member, he said, "You've been scammed. That's not the way bail hearings work." He said the police don't use WhatsApp. He smelled a rat from the get-go. And I had sent him a message and I said, I don't want anybody else to know about this, because I was so on the edge about this. I didn't want anybody to know. I didn't want to get myself in trouble. I didn't want to get anybody in the family in trouble. And he was very kind about it. And he said, this is what scammers do. And he said, I think you need to change your bank account. You need to go to the police and report this. So, I was groomed, I was hooked, and fortunately, I don't have a lot of money. I did not give them any money, and the phone kept ringing. I kept getting messages on WhatsApp. "You haven't checked in. Where are you? Are you okay? Where are you?" I didn't answer the phone, and then I stopped calling. And obviously, it was a scam. And so I went to my bank and I said, "Well, your bank account hasn't been tampered with." I didn't give them enough information. I did show them my driver's license. I'm telling you all of this because these people know how to get to you. And, if you've been in this kind of situation, you can sit back and laugh at me. And if you haven't, this may come your way. And I'm giving you these details to let you know that these scammers are very sophisticated. So I went to my bank, and the bank said, "Well, we can tell that your account has not been tampered with, so you don't have to change it." So I didn't have to go through the rigmarole of letting everybody I know who, automatically deducts a payment or whatever every month. But he put a note on my account if there's any suspicious activity that should be noted. I went to the police department, and they were very, very nice, and they said, anybody can go to Amazon and buy a police uniform, can buy flags, can set up a back bedroom to look like a squad room. And the police department that they used, he said, "I don't know why, but every time we get an identity theft complaint, it's always that police department. They always do that." He said, "We would never call anybody and warn them that they are in trouble. We would knock on your door. We wouldn't call you and say you've had a complaint from the FCC, and we would never use WhatsApp." So I'm telling you all of this, that this is part of the scam. These are the kinds of things people do. And the police department said the best thing fortunately I didn't give away my passwords. I didn't give away any banking information. And he said, basically, there's nothing we can do. Anybody can get your driver's license. So you didn't get yourself into any trouble by showing them a picture of your driver's license. He said the best thing to do is tell everybody what happened and give them the details of the scam so that they will know that people can sound official, they can look official. That does not mean that they are official. If you have any suspicion that somebody is scamming you, hang up and call your local police department. If they are real, they will call you back. If they're a scammer, they will just move on to the next person because you're going to be causing them too much trouble. So that's what I'm doing. I'm coming on here and I am telling you what to look for. First of all, don't answer a phone call if you don't recognize the number, because if it's real, they will get in touch with you. They'll come knocking on your door. But the other thing I want to point out is that fortunately I did not lose any money, but it did cost me. I have some friends that I told, and I said, you know, I'm not really embarrassed about this because scamming is their business. They obviously, I live in a very diverse city and area, so it's not unusual for me to, my daughter said, well, the foreign accents should have been your first clue. But that's not true for me because I live in a very diverse city. So everybody I talk to has an accent. I went to the police department, and the police officer who talked to me had an accent. Everybody has an accent. So that was not unusual for me. But the thing that is unusual, the police would not go on WhatsApp. If the police had an issue that they were concerned about, they would come to my door. They would not call me. They would not give me warning. If the police thought that you were involved in a crime, they wouldn't give you an advance warning so you could skip town. They would come to your door. So these are some of the things that the police do. In telling my friends, I heard accounts of people who were taken in, very smart, savvy people who did have money and were taken in and lost a lot of money. So that's why these people do that. It's a lucrative job. It's illegal. But they are able to get their hands on a lot of money, and that's why they do this. Even if I had not contacted someone who was able to tell me this is a scam, I don't have a lot of money to give them. But the thing that I wanted to share with you to let you know that this is a costly enterprise for me is that I lost some peace of mind. I have been uneasy since this happened. And not because I'm afraid to walk down the street that somebody's going to come after me or that someone else is going to call me, because now I realize I have to be even more careful than I have been. I cannot let my guard down because, yes, I can answer the phone and it can be a scammer and I can hang up and there's no way they can get to me. I have to buy into their hook in order to be vulnerable. But it's made me uncomfortable in my own skin, and I have to work through that, and that's work I have to do. But I laid myself open to that, and that's the part of these scams that I'm not sure is talked about enough. If you listen to people who come on social media or maybe write an article, they will tell you the things to do to protect yourself, but they don't tell you what this kind of a scam does to your self-esteem, to your sense of pride. I mean, I feel that, you know, I'm 86 years old and I live alone. I have a lot of personal accomplishments. I feel I take care of myself very well. I'm very independent. I live alone. And here somebody comes along and makes a fool of me. And I mean, somehow I feel dirty, and I shouldn't, because, you know, as I've said to other people, they have a business doing that. This is what they spend their time doing, figuring out how to get their hands on my money. And, you know, all I have to do is ignore the phone call, is ignore a number I don't recognize. And when I went to my bank, I had a question, and the banker had to call me back. I didn't recognize the number, but he left a message, and so I listened to the message, and I knew I could call him. And that's the thing. If I don't recognize the number and I don't answer it, and it's a genuine call, they'll leave a message. There are ways to get in touch with you if you don't respond to a call. But now I have the the work ahead of me to regain my sense of self. And that's work I have to do. And so I'm coming on here to let you know that, yes, you can go along the line and then say, oh, this is a scam, I'm not going to go any further. But if you're a sensitive person, like I am, and it sort of digs away at your sense of self, then you pay the price. And why bother? Why get to be my age and, give up some peace of mind and just for somebody who's pulling a scam, probably in another country? So that's what I have to tell you today. I hope you can learn from my experience and go on with your day with peace of mind and not have to go through the ugliness that I did. Okay, take care, and I'll see you next time.